Monster Hunter Wilds, the latest installment in Capcom's renowned RPG series, represents a major advancement in the franchise's journey. Building upon the foundation that was laid by its predecessor, that being Monster Hunter World, this new chapter introduces a fully immersive open world, moving away from the traditional segmented areas. In this expansive setting, shifting weather patterns and dynamic ecosystems significantly influence both player tactics and monster interactions, introducing a more dynamic and engaging combat experience. With an enhanced emphasis on immersion, Wild aims to revolutionize the hunting experience within a perpetual changing environment. As Monster Hunter Wilds seeks to push the boundaries of the series with its bold design choices, it also raises an essential questions about finding the right balance between innovation and established traditions. Longtime fans may find themselves comparing these new mechanics to the more challenging gameplay of the earlier times, while newcomers, however, could be attracted by its accessible gameplay. Since its launch in 2004, the Monster Hunter series has enthralled gamers with its engaging combat and intricately crafted monsters and cooperative multiplayer gameplay. Each new release has brought subtle enhancements to the series, perfecting the blend of hunting, crafting, and survival while staying true to its foundational essence. Monster Hunter Wilds represents the pinnacle of nearly 20 years of evolution, delivering an even more immersive and responsive hunting experience. Set in the Forbidden Lands, a long-lost area thought to be uninhabitable by outsiders, the game marks a significant shift from its predecessors, presenting players with an open-world setting rich in environmental interactions, dynamic ecosystems, and spontaneous gameplay. In this adventurous new landscape, players meet a variety of characters who not only assist in their quest but also propel the game's storyline. From Fabius, the seasoned hunter leading the mission to unveil the secrets of the Forbidden Lands, to Nata, the young boy whose connection to the ancient civilization is central to the narrative. Wild places storytelling at the heart of this experience, while Capcom's aim to create a more narrative-driven Monster Hunter game reflects its desire to broaden the franchise's horizons. And like I said, this does raise important questions about whether this new focus on storytelling enhances or undermines the series' new established core. Does this expansion of lore and emphasis on a structured narrative enrich the exhilarating thrill of the hunt, or does it risk compromising the sense of freedom and agency that has been the long hallmark of Monster Hunter's charm? At the heart of Monster Hunter Wilds lies its refined combat system, which introduces new layers of depth and strategic options, building upon the series' long-standing emphasis on skillful weapon use and precise timing. The addition of the wound and focus strike mechanics enhances the tactical richness of the game. Now, personally, I do really like these new mechanics. The wound system allows players to target specific parts of a monster, such as its wings, legs, or tail, creating vulnerabilities that can be exploited for increased damage. This demands a unique rhythm in combat where every attack must be weighed carefully, forcing players to decide whether to focus on dealing direct damage and when to strategically damage parts for future benefits. Meanwhile, the focus strike mechanic complements this by enabling hunters to deliver higher damage attacks that are most effective when the target's vulnerabilities have been exposed. The interplay between aggression and calculated restraints elevates the thrill of each hunt, introducing a more dynamic and engaging combat experience. In addition to these gameplay enhancements, the Sacred Mount represents a groundbreaking change in Monster Hunter Wilds, fundamentally altering how combat is approached. For the first time in the series, players can mount a creature and maintain fluidity in combat while doing so, allowing for greater mobility during hunts. This increased freedom allows hunters to reposition themselves mid-fight, evade devastating attacks with precision, and to keep the flow of the battle moving without feeling bogged down by static positioning. The Sacred's ability to carry a secondary weapon and provide quick access to supplies adds further strategic flexibility, allowing for rapid weapon swaps and item management during the hunt. However, this increased mobility and fluidity may not sit well with some longtime fans of the series. Veterans of Monster Hunter have come to cherish the deliberate, methodical combat pace where success is earned through careful positioning and precise timing and strategic weapon use. The introduction of the Sacred, with its ability to quickly reposition and switch weapons mid-hunt, could feel at odds with the more tactical, slower pace that veterans are used to. For some, the faster, more mobile combat may reduce the level of challenge, making the hunts feel less grounded and less rewarding than in previous titles, where every move counted and mistakes could result in significant setbacks. Now, while the wound and focus strikes mechanics add layers of strategic depth, they may feel like a departure from the more instinctual combat veterans have grown accustomed to. For many long-time players, Monster Hunter is always about learning the rhythm of a monster's movements and adapting to its attack patterns. The new system, while offering more tactical options, introduces additional complexity that may feel cumbersome to those who appreciate the simpler, visceral nature of past hunts. The added layer of exploiting monster parts and timing focus strikes could make the combat feel a little bit too intricate, more than necessary for some, shifting the emphasis away from the organic flow of combat towards a more methodical, multi-layered approach. The broader shift towards a more dynamic open world design may also unsettle veterans who are used to the more segmented zone-based structure of earlier games. While the seamless open world and lack of loading screens are appealing, some longtime fans may feel that the expansive environments strip away the strategic depth of mastering each specific region. The traditional hunting grounds and clear boundaries that once offered a sense of progression and challenge now give way to a more exploratory freedom experience, which may leave veterans feeling overwhelmed or possibly nostalgic for the older, more focused hunts. Ultimately, Monster Hunter Wilds introduces exciting innovations that breathe new life into the series, but these changes may alienate veterans who prefer the slower, more deliberate pacing that has defined Monster Hunter for nearly 2 decades. The increased mobility and combat changes and open world approach all contribute to a fresh, dynamic experience, but for some long-time players, this evolution could feel like a loss of strategic depth and challenge that made the earlier titles so rewarding to them. One of the most remarkable aspects of Monster Hunter Wilds is its genuinely dynamic world, which surpasses the static settings found in the earlier games. The title features a complex and responsive ecological system where factors like weather changes, shifts in the time of day, and territorial conflicts among monsters not only shape the player's journey, but also affect the behavior of the creatures inhabiting the Forbidden Lands. This unpredictability significantly transforms how players engage both in combat and in exploration. For example, storms that reduce the visibility or alter the landscape can lead to dynamic changes in monster behavior. Creatures that typically remain passive or elusive may turn aggressive when faced with environmental changes, compelling players to adapt continuously. An area that was once tranquil can quickly become a fierce battleground as a storm incites territorial disputes among monsters, making the world feel more alive and responsive to various pressures. These dynamic elements create a sense of engaging gameplay, ensuring that no two hunts ever feel exactly the same. The unpredictability of monster interactions and their responses to environmental influences add an extra layer of challenge and strategy. Players who learn to navigate these systems can use the environment to their advantage, setting traps and enticing monsters into areas, or waiting for the ideal moment to attack. Simultaneously, these systems also require hunters to remain alert, and conditions can shift rapidly and unexpectedly, fostering a tense and immersive experience. By incorporating such vibrant world into Monster Hunter Wilds, Capcom has enhanced the franchise's environmental storytelling, providing players with a deeper level of immersion that challenges their expectations. While the environmental changes do not completely redefine the established gameplay loop, they do introduce a refreshing sense of unpredictability, encouraging players to continuously adapt. The shift to a fluid open world format in Monster Hunter Wilds removes the traditional loading screens that separated different areas, creating a more continuous adventure experience. This design enhances immersion, making it feel more cohesive compared to the segmented regions of earlier titles, allowing players to genuinely experience a vast, vibrant world. The environments from lush forests to dry deserts are not only breathtaking, but also lively, featuring changing weather and day-night cycles that affect both the creatures and surroundings. Nevertheless, this ambitious move towards openness does have its drawbacks. While the game promises limitless exploration, players will soon find themselves facing invisible barriers or areas that are locked until certain narrative milestones are reached, and we will get to that, by the way, which does disrupt this feeling of freedom. This gating mechanism can be disconcerting, especially to those who anticipate the complete freedom usually found in open world games. At times, it appears the open world aspect is more of a superficial enhancement rather than a genuine transformation, as some locations remain off limits until players progress through the story, although this system is likely designed to steer players through the expansive environment and maintain a coherent narrative flow. It does, however, detract from the essence that Monster Hunter Wilds is a open world. This conflict between the game's open world aspirations and its linear limitations highlights a broader challenge in the contemporary game design, balancing player freedom with a structured narrative. While the open world offers a vast exploration, its imposed restrictions can diminish the sense of agency that players often seek in such games. Essentially, players are invited to explore, yet they must wait for the story to unfold before they can fully engage with the richness of this world. Monster Hunter Wilds aims to create a captivating world that balances beauty with peril, reflecting a bold artistic ambition. This game features intricately crafted environments showcasing a variety of expansive and colorful biomes. From lush, fog-laden forests to arid, sun-baked deserts, these settings are alive with diverse wildlife, and meticulous attention to the details of the plants and animals enhances the overall authenticity of the game. The massive, fearsome monsters are thoughtfully designed, each with exhilarating a unique character through their movements, animations, and attacks, elevating them beyond just being simple foes. The Monster Hunter franchise has always done well with the designs of the monsters, but this time in particular, they are remarkable. These gigantic creatures are not only visually stunning, but also convey a profound sense of scale and realism. From the heavy ground-shaking steps or the swift predatory actions of smaller monsters, Wilds uses its visual elements to draw players into a thrilling experience of the hunt. The seamless integration with these monsters within their environments, where they engage with the surrounding ecosystems, enhances the feeling of a vibrant, interconnected game world. However, despite these artistic achievements, the technical performance does leave much to be desired, especially on PC, where various issues significantly can hinder the experience. Community feedback points to serious optimization problems, including frequent crashes and lag, particularly during intense moments or when numerous monsters appear on screen. These technical shortcomings lead to a very less seamless gameplay experience, as frame rates drop, disrupt immersion, counteracting the efforts of the design team to create an engaging world. One of the most commonly mentioned issues is the texture pop-ins, where objects and environments load in more slowly than anticipated, resulting in a disjointed visual experience. Furthermore, although the game features interactive environments, the character models, both human and monster, can sometimes feel lackluster, especially when viewed up close. They seem to lack the refinement expected of a contemporary title, creating a contrast with the stunning landscapes that leads to a sense of inconsistency. Characters may appear less substantial, while the vibrant environments clash with the lower quality textures of the models. These performance challenges do not only diminish the visual appeal, but also have a direct effect on the gameplay itself. In a game where precision and timing are crucial, frame rate drops and inconsistent graphics can disrupt seamless combat and exploration. For a title that focuses on real-time tactical decision-making in both hunting and environmental interactions, these technical shortcomings detract from the overall experience. In this way, the game presents a contradiction. While its artistic aspirations are impressive, its technical performance falls short, preventing Monster Hunter Wilds from fully achieving the potential of its groundbreaking visuals. The sound design in Monster Hunter Wilds is truly exceptional, highlighting the game's commitment to the primal conflict between hunter and beast. The environmental audio is crucial, creating an immersive auditory experience that deepens player engagement. The distant roars of these colossal creatures, often heard before they can come into view, act as foreboding signals that evoke a strong sense of anticipation. The rich soundscape is complemented by a dynamic soundtrack that adapts seamlessly to in-game events. The music shifts from calm, almost meditative tunes during exploration, installing a feeling of peace and wonder in the face of the wild, to powerful orchestral pieces during combat. These battle themes grow in intensity and complexity, reflecting the rising tension and stakes of the hunt as players confront formidable monsters. The change in music style not only elevates the impact of these moments, but also reinforces the game's theme of nature's unpredictable and relentless force. Unlike its predecessors, Monster Hunter Wilds introduces a more intricate narrative, emphasizing the discovery of the Forbidden Lands, the Ancient Keepers, and the resurrection of rogue guardian monsters. While this shift towards a more story-driven experience is admirable, it often creates a disjointed experience that clashes with the franchise's traditional focus on gameplay-driven progression. The introductions of characters like Fabius and Nada are meant to forge an emotional connection with the player and serve as an interesting attempt to humanize the often faceless role of a hunter. Fabius, a former hunter turned expedition leader, and Nata, a young boy with a mysterious past, do hold some potential to be a good character and pillar for a narrative, well, Fabius more so, that is. However, this execution falters when the gameplay's pacing is considered. Unlike prior Monster Hunter titles, where the progression is largely dictated by player agency and the thrill of hunting, Wilds intermediately takes control away from the player, regulating them to a slow on-rail sequences that interrupt the flow of gameplay. These sections, often perpetuated by mandatory cutscenes and long-winded exposition dumps that serve to deepen the lore but detract from the pacing, making the narrative feel more intrusive than immersive. The slow-paced storytelling method, while perhaps well-meaning, undermines the core appeal of Monster Hunter. The exhilarating thrill of the hunt, that's what it's always been about. The franchise has always thrived on its reliance on player-driven experiences, the anticipation of tracking a monster, the strategy of each encounter, and the satisfaction of emerging victorious. Yet in Wilds, the core gameplay elements often take a back seat for the narrative to exist, which often feels rather intrusive rather than a seamless integration to the overall experience. The gameplay and story are often at odds as the player is forced to wade through unskippable dialogues, mandatory cinematic cutscenes that serve to disrupt the pacing of the hunting loop. The narrative, rather than enhancing the experience, often acts as a cumbersome roadblock that diminishes the sense of freedom and the excitement that the series is known for. Moreover, the narrative interruptions feel especially jarring within the context of Monster Hunter Wilds setting. The Forbidden Lands, an enigmatic once isolated region, provides a backdrop rich with mystery and untold history. There's a world of potential here for a subtle environmental storytelling approach that lets players uncover its secrets at their own pace. However, the forced narrative beats and linear progression detract from any sense of discovery and exploration. The game at times feels less like an open world experience to explore and more like a series of disjointed corridors bounded by a rigid predetermined plot arc. Oh, and speaking of plot, do you want to know what the plot to Monster Hunter Wilds is? Well, here we go. And for this part, we want to give a big thank you to Wikipedia for this part. Here we go. The narrative begins when a group of explorers led by former hunter Fabius discovers a unconscious and injured boy named Nada in the wasteland. Nada claims to be from the Forbidden Lands, a region isolated for over 2,000 years and presumed uninhabitable. He reveals that his people are known as Keepers, were attacked by a creature called the White Wraith, a monster previously thought to be extinct. In response to this revelation, Fabius assembles an expedition team, the Avis Unit, to escort Nada back to his homeland and investigate the threat posed by this White Wraith. The team comprises of the player-controlled hunter, their Palico companion, a girl handler called Alma, and just for the record right here, I want to say this somewhat Mia Khalifa kind of looking handler is so much better and does so much more than the handler in Monster Hunter World, so she gets points there. And then there's the blacksmith Gemma. Now, as they traverse the Forbidden Lands, they encounter various settlements and assist the inhabitants dealing with aggressive monsters and environmental challenges. The team also discovers the Land Spire, a damaged structure leaking wyvern milk, which we're just going to call Wilk in this game, which appears to be linked to the region's abnormal weather conditions. Now, a quick interjection right here, roughly around this stage in my playthrough is where I started to add some mods. Nothing gameplay affecting, just some visual enhancements. Following the Land Spire, the Avis unit reaches the ruins of Wyveria, the ancient capital where Nata reunites with the Keepers. Here they learn about the Dragon Torch, a source of infinite energy distributed through the Land Spire, and guardian monsters, artificial creatures designed to protect Wyveria. The White Wraith, which has now been identified as Arkveld, a guardian, has gone rogue, disrupting the ecosystem's balance. And now for another quick interjection. This part in the game here tries to make you feel sad about needing to kill a monster. In a game called Monster Hunter, they're trying to make you feel sad about hunting a monster. This is like GTA attempting to guilt players for stealing cars in their games.
Please! Nata. If anyone should be angry, it's me. And I hate that it happened. This is the first thing it ever got to decide for itself. To be free. To live strong. Please, don't do this. I'm begging you.
It can't control itself. The path we must take is clear. For the continued preservation of this ecosystem, the Guild authorizes you to slay the Guardian Arkveld. Acknowledged.
No, please! There has to be another way! It finally got its chance to live!
It better not be you who just stole my car.
Anyway, the hunter confronts and defeats Arkfeld only to discover another guardian, the Zoa Sire, feeding on the Dragon Torch. With guidance from the Keepers and the Wyverian sage Alcarian, I apologize if I butchered that, the Avis unit confronts and ultimately slays Zoa Sire. Following these events, Nada becomes an apprentice hunter and the team discovers an Arkveld egg, indicating the species' potential for rebirth. As the Avis unit continues their mission, they encounter Gore Magala, a monster carrying the Frenzy virus, which infects other creatures and the Dragon Torch itself, causing widespread chaos. The hunter and Fabius manage to kill Gore Magala with the help of Werner and Eric. They treat the Dragon's Torch to restore the balance. However, the new Arkveld becomes infected due to the exposure of corrupted energy. After witnessing Arkveld's destructive behavior, Nada pleads with the hunter to end its suffering, potentially leading to a species extinction once more. In the end, the hunter reassures Nada that nature always finds a way. I think I've heard that line somewhere.
Life, finds a way.
Suggesting the possibility of Arkveld's survival. They agree to search for any remaining signs for the species together. Throughout their journey, the Avis unit not only confronts formidable monsters, but also uncovers ancient secrets and technologies that shed light on the history and mysteries of the Forbidden Lands. The game emphasizes the importance of balance within the ecosystem and the consequences of disrupting that harmony. And well, that's a very brief explanation of the plot, and I gotta be honest, and please correct me if I'm wrong here. I am not exactly the most veteran Monster Hunter player out there, but I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say I don't think anyone cares about Monster Hunter plots. I'm not even saying they're bad, I'm just saying people don't tend to really give a shit. How often do you hear someone talk about the plot to a Monster Hunter game? It's just something that people don't really care about. Lore of monsters? Yeah, sure. The fact that Gemma, the blacksmith in this game, is in a previous Monster Hunter game, you know, there's some lore and connections. Yeah, that's cool, but the actual plot and story of each game, I put in a lot of hours into Monster Hunter World, and throughout that whole time, I've never had a conversation with anyone about the plot of that game. Now, moving on from that, one of the major issues surrounding Monster Hunter Wilds is its technical performance, especially on PC. Players have experienced frequent crashes, stuttering, and frame rate drops, with some players even noting a significant decline since the open beta. Yeah, the open beta seemed to perform better for a lot of people. Now, these problems are not just isolated incidents, they represent a widespread frustration among players, particularly given the high expectations for a refined release in time when technical optimization is crucial. The contrast between the PC version and its console versions is quite pronounced, at least from what I've seen, with the PC experiencing serious performance issues, while the console versions tend to run more smoothly. Monster Hunter Wilds still does not meet the industry benchmarks for a fully immersive open world experience. These technical flaws are made worse by the game's ambition to create a seamless world. The transitions between different regions and environments are often marred by noticeable frame rate drops and subpar textures, detracting from visual immersion that Capcom aimed to achieve. A frequently neglected aspect contributing to these performance challenges is the use of de novo, an anti-piracy technology that has gained a reputation for causing performance issues in many recent games. Considering that Monster Hunter Wilds is a vast open world game with intricate systems, the addition burden of de novo worsens its existing optimization problems. The game's engine, while powerful, is more adept at handling the confined and linear settings of typical Resident Evil titles, where the focus of tight levels allows for smoother performance. In contrast, the expansive and dynamic environments of Monster Hunter Wilds stretch this engine what seems to be beyond its optimal limits, leading to choppy performance and visual quality issues. The lack of consistent optimization points to a hurried development process or an inadequate response to performance concerns prior to the game's launch. While Capcom's promise of post-launch patches is encouraging, I guess, it does little to ease the frustrations of players who are currently grappling with these technical setbacks. Until these problems are fully addressed, the game's full potential remains compromised, overshadowing what should have been a visually immersive and technological sound adaptation to the Monster Hunter franchise. The ongoing technical instability leaves a disappointing impression, which may potentially discourage players from fully immersing themselves in the rich world this game aspires to present. Monster Hunter Wilds brings several significant control improvements that elevate the hunting experience, particularly with the introduction of the Sacred Mount and enhanced slinger mechanics. The Sacred is definitely a noteworthy addition, allowing for quicker movement across the expansive world. With its one-button navigation feature, players can easily detect the mount towards their objects, making travel far less of a chore. This is especially beneficial for newcomers or those who value efficiency, as it shifts the focus back to the hunt rather than the often tedious journey through vast areas. The mount intelligently chooses the fastest route, reducing navigation time and increasing immersion in the core gameplay. Alongside the Sacred, the upgraded slinger mechanics, like the ability to gather items from a distance and utilize them for environmental traps, add further strategic elements to combat, allowing players to adapt to the various monsters they will encounter. However, seasoned Monster Hunter fans who are used to a more hands-on approach to movement and combat have suggested that they view the Sacred's one-button travel system as a mixed blessing. For those long-time players, the essence of the series has been about the deep immersion and active engagement with the environment, balancing stamina, positioning, and planning routes during hunts. While the Sacred's automatic navigation is convenient for some, it may diminish the sense of agency, making exploration feel less engaging. The simplification could be perceived as an effort to attract a newer or less experienced players, but it risks alienating those who appreciated the more deliberate pacing of earlier Monster Hunter games. These players might prefer a more manual navigation system that keeps them involved in every facet of their journey, including travel. Before we move on to what I consider to be the main strengths and weaknesses of Monster Hunter Wilds, there's one thing that I've needed to talk about this whole review. On a personal level, the elimination of the canteen and the cherished Chef Palicos in Monster Hunter Wilds is very disappointing. The franchise has always been known for its light-hearted and charming moments, particularly the scene where Chef Palicos whip up meals in the canteen before players embark on their hunts. The adorable and often funny cutscenes that accompanied these meals provided a sense of comfort and joy, introducing a whimsical touch to the otherwise intense gameplay. And while I'm talking about Palicos, have a look at how cute mine is. Oh, hello, little kitty cat. Oh, come up here. Who's a cute little kitty cat? Oh, look at him yawn. He's so cute. He's going to sleep. Cute little kitty cat.
GIRLS. I like girls. I'm not gay. I would never. I'm straight. You're mad.
But now we're going to talk about what I consider to be the main strengths and weaknesses of Monster Hunter Wilds, and we're going to start with the strengths. First up, we have the Wound and Focus Strike system. The Wound and Focus Strike system in Monster Hunter Wilds transforms the combat experience that veteran players have come to know. At its heart, this system emphasizes the importance of targeting specific parts of the monsters, with each inflicted wound gradually weakening the creature. This adds a new layer of complexity to battles, prompting hunters to concentrate on particular body parts to disable attacks, break defenses, or exploit vulnerabilities for greater damage. It rewards players for their precision, timing, and adaptability, necessitating adjustments in combat strategies based on the monster's weaknesses. By prioritizing part targeting for damage output, Wild shifts the focus towards patience and accuracy, contrasting with earlier titles where sheer damage was often the main goal. The introduction of the focus strikes, intense, concentrated attacks that take full advantage of these wounds, creates a dynamic that encourages players to adopt skillful and strategic approaches in each encounter. This not only enhances the tactical depth of the hunts, but also fosters a stronger connection between the players and the monster, transforming each battle into a test of precision rather than mere strength. Next is the dynamic environment. The vibrant setting of Monster Hunter Wilds brings a sense of fluidity that significantly enriches the game's world building. The integration of weather systems and day-night cycles that impact the monster behavior is a brilliant addition, providing an extra layer of complexity to the already intricate combat scenarios. Conditions such as storms or bright sunlight can alter monster aggression, movement, and susceptibility to some specific elemental attacks, requiring players to adapt quickly. The transition from day to night further complicates the hunt by changing visibility, hunting behaviors, and sometimes even introducing entirely different species of monsters in the area. This natural variability encourages hunters to interact with their surroundings in deeply contextual and immersive ways. It enhances the engagement gameplay experience, as players can no longer depend on predictable patterns when pursuing their quarry. Instead, they must leverage their understanding of the monster's strategies alongside the awareness of how weather and time affect both the creature and the battlefield. This This transforms each hunt into more than just a pursuit. It becomes a dynamic engagement with a living, breathing ecosystem. And the Sacred Mount. I do like the Sacred Mount. It represents a groundbreaking advancement in how players navigate the vast terrains of Wilds. By enabling smooth and continuous movement across the varied landscapes, the Sacred greatly amplifies the sense of freedom that was often constrained in zone-based systems of previous Monster Hunter titles. Its unique capability to automatically locate and direct players to monsters promotes a more natural exploration experience, allowing hunters to immerse themselves in their adventures without the hassle of constant backtracking between hunting areas. In addition to also being a travel companion, it does also play a role in combat. It can be equipped with your second weapon that the player can select, providing the versatility to shift between different combat styles seamlessly. This feature allows players to transition from, say, a melee to a ranged or support roles while mounted. Now, this fundamentally altering their approach to the dynamic encounters. For instance, a player might initiate a battle wielding a heavy weapon on foot and then hop onto the Sacred to switch to a ranged weapon, targeting the monster's vulnerabilities from a safe distance while also maintaining mobility. This adaptability fosters creative combat strategies and enhances customization options. And this one is a little bit of a to be determined as of right now, but I will also throw in that Capcom is promising expansive post-launch content updates. This commitment to ongoing engagement throughout the extensive post-launch content updates, Capcom has pledged to deliver 3 title updates, with the first one to launch in April of 2025. Wonder if this video will even be out by then. These updates will not only bring new monsters, but also introduce fresh challenges and explored areas, ensuring that players will remain invested in the game over time. This dedication to broadening the game world and providing new experience is essential for sustaining interest in a genre often criticized for its repetitiveness. So those are a few of the things that I consider to be the main strengths of this game, particularly the combat. That is where this game absolutely excels. But that does also mean now we have to talk about what I also think to be the biggest weaknesses for this game. And the first one is their technical performance issues. And while I haven't encountered any significant performance issues myself...
Do you think you've lost your dirty mojo?
Yeah, I am a bit desperate on that front. I mean, I've even bought a...
What?
Nothing.
No what, Mark?
It is important to recognize that at its launch, Monster Hunter Wilds struggles with technical performance, especially on the PC platform. Despite its vast landscapes and complex gameplay mechanics, the game is plagued by frequent crashes, suboptimal optimization, stuttering, and frame drops. These problems become particularly evident in demanding environments or during intense combat, where players may face noticeable lag or abrupt interruptions. In some instances, the game's performance is even inferior to that of the open beta version, which adds more frustration among players. That said though, it is worth noting that the performance has improved for many players on capable systems, and future updates are expected to enhance performance further. But this does not, I repeat, does not excuse the game's rocky launch. Now this next part's probably going to confuse some people here, but I think we have to talk about the diminished difficulty and the wound system. Yes, one of the most debated changes in Monster Hunter Wilds is the implementation of the wound system, and I know that I have spoken about this feature in this video being a positive for me, and I think this feature introduces a new strategic element to battles. It also alters the game's overall difficulty. By allowing players to deal concentrated damage, the wound system lessens the intense trial and error combat that has been the hallmark for the series. For dedicated fans, the thrill of conquering formidable monsters after numerous attempts, whether by mastering the attack patterns or trying out various different weapons or carefully managing resources, has always been a defining aspect for the franchise. Now the wound system simplifies this challenge by enabling hunters to adopt a more systematic method of weakening monsters by targeting specific body parts. As a result, the sense of achievement may feel diminished, as players may not experience the same level of attention or excitement before facing a monster. Although the system does provide a tactical edge, it also does come at the cost of intense, high-stakes challenges that previously made this series so fulfilling. And next is a thing that I really consider to be one of the weakest part of this game: the limited endgame content. The endgame experience in Monster Hunter Wilds is facing criticism due to its limited variety and depth. The endgame primarily revolves around farming a small selection of high-level monsters for gear. This method, while familiar to longtime fans, comes across as monotonous and uninspired when compared to other entries of the series, which featured a broader range of endgame activities, including intricate quest lines for more engaging monster hunting challenges. challenges. And consequently, players who dedicate many hours to this game may soon find themselves facing a standstill, as the endgame is largely characterized by repeatedly hunting the same monsters for minor upgrades. And finally, what I consider to be one of the main weaknesses of this game is the storytelling, the overly intrusive storytelling. It disrupts the game's core hunting loop, affecting pacing and immersion. And again, I really don't want to go on my rant again, but I don't think anyone actually cares about the plot to a Monster Hunter game. Just give me a hammer and let me smash a dragon's skull in.
You need to relax.
The shift towards accessibility, often referred to as the normification of gaming, is a topic that has gained considerable traction in recent years. And in the case of Monster Hunter Wilds, this shift is undeniably evident in several design decisions, including streamlining the combat system and the reduction in difficulty. While this trend may expand the game's appeal to a broader audience, my two least favorite fucking words when combined, it does risk alienating hardcore fans who have long relished in the challenge Monster Hunter is known for. The tension between accessibility and traditionalism is something that haunts not only Wilds, but the broader gaming industry, where there is an ongoing debate on whether to prioritize inclusivity or maintain the difficulty that fosters mastery. That said though, Monster Hunter Wilds undeniably introduces numerous innovations that contribute to its success. The seamless open world offers a new sense of freedom, something that was long requested for by players who were accustomed to the segmented level designs of previous titles. The dynamic weather and time of day systems, combined with the new wound and focus strike mechanics, elevate the combat. These systems add weight to every action the player takes, encouraging careful planning and adaptability, which is refreshing change compared to the more linear or formalic gameplay found in some of its predecessors. The introduction of AI control companions in the single player mode is something we haven't really talked about yet, but in this game, when you signal your SOS flare, it's possible for the game to just give you AI companions if they're unable to find any real players that accept your SOS flare. We should also mention it is possible to turn this feature off though, but it does expand the game's accessibility, allowing solo players to experience the cooperative aspect of Monster Hunter without needing for the rely of an online communication. While this isn't far from a perfect solution, there are times when the AI feels lacking compared to the dynamic output of human players, which I think is just to be expected given the nature of these types of games. But again, it is another subject in regards to the debate between traditionalism and innovation. Furthermore, Capcom's commitment to post-launch content updates, including the addition of new monsters and challenges, signals their understanding of the importance of keeping the experience fresh. However, this focus on expansion rather than simply offering a finished product speaks to the evolving expectations of modern gaming, where live service models and consistent updates have become the norm. And I do think we have to give Monster Hunter Wilds here some credit for not fully committing to the live service model where it so easily could have. Despite these successes, the game's technical issues, particularly on PC, are a significant hindrance. The stuttering, crashes, and frame rate drops undermine the otherwise impressive visual environment design, catering a jarring experience that does detract from immersion. For a game that relies so heavily on its dynamic world and fluid exploration, these performance issues are more than a minor inconvenience. They detract from the core gameplay experience itself. Ultimately, Monster Hunter Wilds walks a fine line between becoming a new standard for the series and succumbing to the pressures of broadening its appeal at the cost of its roots. Its innovations are impressive, and the core gameplay loop remains completely satisfying. However, its technical performance, reduced difficulty, and lack of robust endgame content prevent it from fully achieving its potential. As the game content progresses, Wilds does have the potential to evolve into one of the standout titles of the year, provided that Capcom can address these shortcomings in future updates. For now though, it remains a thrilling, imperfect, and one that I do continue to enjoy despite its flaws. And make no mistake about it, I know this may be coming across as a bit harsh, but I do mean when I say this, and I know it is early in the year, but so far this is the best game, at least in my opinion, of the whole year. The things that hold it back really do hold it back though, but the good stuff far outweighs the bad stuff. But this game has definitely striking quite a few conversations about the state of gaming in general. Look over on Steam for example, at least as of this recording, it's still sitting on a mixed review despite having hundreds of thousands of players. Now why is this game a mixed review? Mainly due to the PC issues of this game, but we also have to take into account the normification that is present in here. And like I've said throughout this video, it's not just present present here, it's present in gaming as a whole, and there is definitely a discussion to be had about that. But I'm starting to yap a little bit too much. All in all, I really like this game, but there is quite a few things that do deserve and need to be critiqued about it. So if you enjoyed this video, make sure you like, subscribe, leave a comment on your thoughts on this game, all that good stuff. And if you really like it, consider becoming a channel member. It greatly helps with the production of these videos. Have a fantastic day, everybody, and we'll see you all in the next video.